an announcement on an increase in the living wage is potentially going to be brought forward to September due to the unprecedented rate at which prices are rising.
So what will this increase actually mean for your household? Let's talk to our economics and business editor, Liam Halligan, who joins us now. Morning to you, Liam. What do you reckon to this?
Morning, Stephen. Morning, Rosie. What's actually happening here is that the minimum wage went up to £9.90. That's the minimum wage paid by employees for lower income workers. About 5 million people across the UK are on the minimum wage. And of course, it's a little bit more in London. It's £11.05 in London. What's happening here is there's a charity called the Living Wage Foundation. And what they do is they publish their view of what the minimum wage should be going forward. It's not a government body, it's a charity. And ordinarily, the Living Wage Foundation says in September what it thinks the minimum wage should be to be introduced the next April. They normally say that in November. What they're going to do is going to bring that forward to September in order to try and raise awareness of where they think wages should be. This doesn't mean, I'm afraid, that the government is going to increase the minimum wage earlier than it otherwise would, which is every April. It's set every April. What this points to, though, the Living Wage Foundation is a very important charity. What this points to is a sense that wages are not keeping up with prices. And we know they're not. Many GBNews viewers and listeners will know that. The official rate of inflation is 9%. That means that the cost of living is apparently 9% higher now than it was this time last year. For lots of us, the idea it's only 9% more is a bit of a joke. We feel that our bills have gone up a lot more than 9%. So there is obviously pressure from trade unions to push up wages, both in the public and the private sector. We've seen this dispute with the RMT on the trains. I'm sure there'll be public sector disputes as well going forward. But more generally, there's a sense that wages are not going up, if they're going up at all, as fast as prices. Living standards are slipping. And this announcement by the Living Wage Foundation that they're thinking of bringing forward the moment when they say what the next minimum wage should be points to that trend.
So, stating the obvious, what you're saying, Liam, is that the rise in minimum wage won't do anything to mean that you can afford the current cost of living.
The minimum wage has just gone up quite substantially, but it's not gone up nearly as fast as the rate of inflation. So the Living Wage Foundation, they're going to say earlier what they think the next minimum wage should be in order to, generate public debate and put pressure on the government. It's happening everywhere, this sense that inflation is running away from us, right across all parts of the economy. Many of us aren't getting any wage rises at all. We're getting a lot less. And if we are getting wage rises, it's less than the rate of inflation, which of course means our living standards fall. And this is why one reason why Rishi Sunak did the emergency budget last week that we're not allowed to call an emergency budget, because when purchasing power falls across the economy, when people's spending power is less, that means the economy slows down. That means firms get less money. There's less tax revenue. And that's why the Tories now are trying to boost the economy. But in doing so, they're really upsetting some of their core supporters who feel, there's lots of stuff in the Sunday papers about how Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson, they kind of ushered in an era of sort of Jeremy Corbyn style economics, the highest tax rates since Aneurin Bevan, just after the Second World War. There's lots of conservative voters, and particularly on the conservative backbenchers, who think it would be better, rather than borrowing lots of money and raising spending in that way, to cut tax. Remember, on many of the lowest paid people, Rishi Sunak just introduced an increase in the rate of national insurance. Remember, we were talking about that just a few weeks ago. So why not lower the rate of national insurance? Why not take those renewable subsidies off your electricity bill, rather than borrowing and spending and handing out money? This is the kind of, I've just listened to your very interesting conversation with your previous guest. This is the kind of philosophical, theological, if you like, debate going on at the heart of government. Should they be a borrowing and spending party, or should they be a lower tax party? And that's a conundrum that I don't think Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak have managed to work out yet.
No, I mean, look, with all of this, and obviously a lot of people watching will say, well, one way or another, we do need considerably bigger pay rises.
Absolutely.
But I mean, now I'm no economics expert, Liam, but thank heavens we've got you. But doesn't that at least lead to the risk of increased or hyperinflation at some point if everyone's just getting paid more?
I wouldn't say hyperinflation. That we've got to be careful. Hyperinflation means like 25% inflation a month. But you're completely right in the thrust of your question, Stephen. There is definitely a danger when you are borrowing more money and even getting the Bank of England to create money for you. We've done a lot of that in recent years. A lot of the pandemic measures, the furlough scheme and so on, was basically paid for with newly created money. When you're creating money, borrowing money in order to give it away to the public, it can be inflationary. And this is the danger. If you're going down the giving money away route, then you can undermine the very measures to address the cost of living that you're imposing, because you'll just push up inflation and prices will go up in the shops faster than you can give money away. So what some people would say, and I've got a lot of sympathy for this, is tax people less, particularly tax people on lower incomes less. And this is the sense that's kind of going around at the moment in the aftermath of Rishi Sunak's statement. Yes, of course, something needs to happen to help people, not just on lower incomes, but people who thought they were comfortable before with their fuel bills, with the fact that they've got a lot less purchasing power than they had. So why not scrap those renewable subsidies that push your electricity bills up by 25%? Why not reverse those national insurance increases which Rishi Sunak brought in controversially? Why not what we call raise the starting rate of income tax so you earn more money without it being taxed? What's the point in taxing people on lower incomes only to give them that tax back in benefits? It just makes no sense. Better if they just keep more of their own money in the first place. And yes, of course, millions of British households are suffering now, and it brings me no pleasure to say I think the cost of living crisis will get worse before it gets better. But be in no doubt, this has sparked an absolutely huge debate within the heart of not just the Conservative Party, but within the heart of government. There's splits across the cabinet about this. And Rishi Sunak, who was previously seen as a kind of low tax, keep more of your own money kind of guy, seems to have transmogrified, if you like, into a borrow more money, give more money away kind of guy. So I personally think that we're going to see a lot of rows about this going forward. And it may be, I mean, even Sunak himself, he said, didn't he, during his spring statement, I'm raising taxes now, but I'm going to lower taxes before the general election. I'm going to take a penny off income tax. Well, people are saying, well, why not do that now? Because the help is needed now.
Oh, it's interesting stuff. I could listen to you all morning, Liam. Thank you very much indeed. Thankfully, you can listen to Liam for longer because he's going to be on the show, of course, on The Money, on GB News at 1 o'clock today, as always. It's so important, isn't it, when someone can just take this information, which is very complicated, really, and make it understandable.